So today, moving on to the next Vajra statement, keeping in mind the last Vajra statement, statement 17, as Professor Zobish points out, reminds us, 17 is kind of the basis for understanding 18 and 19. So 18 says, even for a realized one, the path of methods is especially necessary. So this is an important statement. Even for a realized one, the path of methods is especially necessary. So here, realized one doesn't mean like, Buddha Shakyamuni realized in that way. Okay? It doesn't mean like a fully awakened, complete and perfect Buddha. Here, realized one is, in this context, primarily talking about if you have been introduced to the nature of mind and you successfully recognize this nature of mind, so then you have achieved some realization of the nature of mind. Or sometimes I say, I use the expression, caught a glimpse of this nature of mind. So once you have realized, this is what this statement is saying. In a way, this statement maybe it could be, if I more loosely translate the statement, it would be something like, especially, for realized ones, the path of methods is necessary. Especially for those who have realized nature of mind, then, in a way, then and only then, utilizing the powerful methods found in the path of methods becomes necessary. The path of methods is referring to the more specific reference is referring to like the practices found in the 6 yogas of Naropa, like Tummo, like dream yoga, then the various different like physical exercises involved in enhancing Tummo. Vase breathing, and then the different trukos, movements of the body to enhance Tummo intensity. So here, Kyobpa's position is, generally speaking, from the other places, looking at other places, looking at his teachings in other places, he really does emphasize that it's misguided. Many of us are misguided into thinking that before having any realization of nature of mind, practicing Tummo is beneficial, or these path of methods. So he's saying, no, actually, these path of methods, the methods found in the path of methods become especially meaningful, especially important, especially necessary once you have realized to some degree of this nature of mind. Then, of course, we also need to take into account, do you then have the circumstances of practicing the path of methods? Just because it's good, just because it's necessary, just because it is indispensable, unless you make, you gather those conditions for practicing them, then trying to practice them also won't bring about too much effect, or may not bring about the right effect even. Because those practices, they are like turning on, they are like turning on the heat. If you think of like the tummo as like this fire, right, this blazing at the base of your spine. And so realizing the nature of your mind, recognizing nature of mind, in a way you could say it's like a flame has been turned on, right? So then using this path of methods, you are like, giving a burst of energy and gas for that flame to really burn, So now, in some ways, you are like playing with fire. And so it can be disruptive. But if it is disruptive because you have already realized nature of mind, then that disruption is actually good energy. If you have not yet realized nature of mind, and then to put it in less mystical terms, if you don't have good understanding, good realization, good stability in emptiness, in understanding emptiness, in realizing emptiness, of course, turning on the heat will just cause a lot of disruption and confusion. Now, some of you might even have, in the context of doing more intensive, more focused retreat, accidentally turn on the heat. Then, your body experience certain things that is just like, whoa, what is going on, Some of you may have experienced that in the context of a retreat, or, retreat doesn't just mean go away somewhere far away to, someplace exotic. Even if you do a retreat schedule at home, it might accidentally turn on some of the heat, so to say, and that just naturally occurs. And then in those moments, if you have a good guide who can, whom you trust and who also understand what's going on, may be able to tell you, okay, right there, you just let it come back down, don't make a big deal out of it. Because at that time, right, not having yet realized nature of mind, right, you should not turn the heat on, so to say, or not that kind of heat. Primarily, you should develop renunciation. Primarily, you should cultivate determination to be free. Primarily, you should cultivate stability of mind. Primarily, you should cultivate, especially the kind of stability of mind that is not the result of like artificially forcing your mind to be stable, which you can. There are meditations that can help you at least temporarily achieve some kind of stability of mind. But that kind of stability of mind tends to be fragile. The stability of mind that comes from determination to be free, being stable. The stability of mind that comes from actually understanding the undesirable nature of sense, the burdensome nature, the undesirable nature of sense attractions. The stability of mind that comes from even deeper, the stability of mind that comes as a result of having understanding of emptiness. Then you don't move so easily. All kinds of monkey business could be going on around you. It's not like you're not aware You don't move so easily. When you have that kind of stability, then purposefully, now not accidentally, purposefully using practices in the path of methods can, now you're purposely under controlled environment, so to say, you're turning on the temperature. You're giving it more energy, you're giving it more power, because that then becomes necessary to burn off more and deeper layers of confusion being consumed, being burned off. So here this statement addresses two issues, actually. One issue, the way it's translated here, emphasizes this first issue, which is, some people think, oh, once you have realized the nature of mind, oh, no need the path of methods. Now I just relax. Oh, everything is empty. Yes. Oh, thoughts just come and go. Yes. Then thoughts come and go, thoughts come and go. Then that means you are coming and going, because thoughts are not like, some things that, they sprinkle from the sky and accidentally come to you. Thoughts are also, it's arising from you, Yes, of course, in Mahamudra we said, whether thoughts arise or thoughts don't arise, the nature is the same, right? But that doesn't mean, that a realized person continue to have the amount of thoughts and wandering around like you and I have right now. These thoughts will naturally subside. Why? Because your mind, on the deeper level, is now resting in its own nature. When it's really resting in its own nature, there is not a lot of blah 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 going on. I know, when we're trying to encourage people not to get so uptight, even in introductory meditation, we say, oh, don't bother with the thoughts, let them come, let them go, right? Yeah, it's very fashionable. I say the same thing, not to scare people away. One thing. Another thing is, some people think, meditation is like, like getting a rope tied very tightly, then that is the other extreme. So then we say things like, just remain present, let the thoughts come and go. But if you really think more about it, right? Let the thoughts come and go. Where do the thoughts originate from? They are not like somebody else brought them and then take them away, You is still generating these thoughts. So first, develop those conditions for the mind to quiet down, to become stable, recognizing impermanence, recognizing emptiness, then becoming naturally content. Then, when you have that, path of methods. Path of methods, frequently we say, it's like these yogas of Naropa, but included even in the path of methods are something, so this is the broader meaning of path of methods. Path of methods have a very specific reference, in this context we just talked about, but there is a broader range of practices or methods also belonging to the path of methods. So that includes, for example, the intensity that is generated from single pointed mantra recitation. So people talk about, as a reference point, right? They might talk about accumulating 1 million Vajrayogini mantras, which is a long mantra, Om Om Sarva Buddhakini Bhajavarani, right? 1 million of that. Or even 1 million Om Mani Padme Hum, 6 syllable. But intensely, cultivating it intensely. When you have, when your mind, so you see, the ordinary method perhaps is to use mantra to focus the mind. But here we're talking about the mind is already focused. The mind has already achieved some stability due to having perceived directly how it is, its own nature and the nature of all things. Then from that point on, mantra recitation gains a different power, a different oomph. That kind of intensity now. You're not using mantra to quiet the mind, the mind is already relatively quiet. Now you're turning on the heat so that it can burn up more. All the subtle chatterings also burn off. All the habits burn off. Cleared. And so the path of methods. First meaning. So don't think, oh, already realized nature of mind, no need path of methods. That's the one issue. Second issue is, oh, path of methods, so good, so important. Oh, did you see? Lama so-and-so is offering this or that. Now even better, Zoom even, Lama so-and-so is offering, the path of methods, this exercise, that exercise, I don't know about you. For me, watching someone doing exercise, I'm like, wait, is it this side? Wait, is it that side? Is it turning this side? Is it turning that side? Like which hand is blocking which nose? You get all upside down. Maybe you are better at watching these and following. For me, it's just I give up. But very exciting, So then we hear, oh, so and so is so compassionate. He's going to show us how to practice this and that. So are we saying Kyobpa Jigten Sumgon is not compassionate? When he's not just telling anyone and everyone who wants to learn these things? Yes, I'll show you. Yes, I'll show you. We say, oh, that's very compassionate. Was Marpa compassionate or not? Did he just say to Milarepa, oh, I'm so glad you came. I have been really lonely. No students. Yay! You're going to make me great. No, Marpa said, what do you want? Marpa said, what do you want? You want that? No, it'll cost you. Marpa really didn't care. Didn't care for the 8 worldly concerns. Didn't care for praise and blame. Didn't care for loss and gain. So that's really compassion. So anyway, these 2 reasons. 1, even if you have realized nature of mind, even if you have realized emptiness, don't become complacent and think, oh, I'm on first bhumi now. Smooth sailing to 10th bhumi. No. You need path of methods to get you there. And not just that, get you there fast. Why fast? Not because, these days, who doesn't like fast? but because not being able to see our mother's suffering. So as quickly as possible. That's why path of methods. And path of methods belong to Vajrayana. Exclusive in that sense. Generally, Kyobpa don't like to emphasize, oh, this is especially Vajrayana, oh, this is especially Sutrayana. Kyobpa generally doesn't talk like this. Yeah? Except in this context, he will say, yes, secret mantra has these very powerful methods. But these methods only work properly when you have stabilized in what's known as the path of liberation. The path of liberation, drolam, in Tibetan, drowa, liberation, the path of liberation, drolam. The path of methods, tablam, lam again, path, tab methods, drolam, tablam. Drolam, so in the context of like Drikung Kagyu, tablam is primarily the fivefold Mahamudra. Tablam is practice, drolam, path of liberation is primarily practiced through the fivefold Mahamudra. The main goal there is to lead us to recognizing nature of mind, and then stabilizing that, and penetrating to more and more profound realizations of that nature. Then tablam, the path of methods, primarily 6 yogas of Naropa, all the related practices there. So now let's look at Khenpo Kunpal's commentary for 618. Even for someone who has realization of the ultimate nature of Mahamudra, the path of methods, that is the 6 yogas, inner heat and so forth, generosity and so forth. So these are the broader meanings of the path of methods. So the narrow specific reference is to the 6 yogas, inner heat and so forth, but also generosity and so forth. And so this means the 5 of the 6 perfections. Footnote here says 6. No. This is the first 5. Generosity and so forth. Because the realization one is the 6th paramita. So even when you have realized some degree of the 6th paramita of wisdom, discriminative wisdom, still the other 5 paramitas now can enhance. So you see, if you look at if you look at this matter from the perspective of the 6 perfections, right? Normally we think of how the 6th perfection works, the 6 paramitas work, is the first 5 leads you to the 6th. But here the emphasis is, yes, in some ways, the cultivating of the first 5 makes 6 realization of 6 possible. But when realization of the 6 has happened to some degree, not to the full extent, don't think, oh, I don't need the other 5 now. Actually, now, when you cultivate any of the other 5, their effect, their function changes once some degree of the wisdom in the 6th has been achieved, realized. And then for example, your cultivation of generosity is not just the mundane generosity, which is generosity that is based on the idea of I'm the giver, this is the give, this is the giving, and there's the receiver. But when the giving is informed by motivated by an understanding of the single nature of both the giving, the gift, the giver, the gift, and the giving, and the receiver. That they are all empty of essence. They are interdependently arising. When our giving is done that way, then the effect of that kind of giving in terms of dispelling confusion is much, much more powerful. So here, this is to increase. Why do you need the path of methods? It is to increase the qualities in one's own mind stream. And based on that, one's great loving kindness towards others will become effortless. So then the path of methods is related to the quality of great compassion, great loving kindness. So if you put this into the context of, say, the Lojong tradition, then the path of methods is relative bodhicitta. The path of liberation is absolute bodhicitta. And so, in fact, Lojong in 7 points begin with first cultivate absolute bodhicitta. It seems counterintuitive, right? You think, wait, shouldn't we start from relative? But Lojong in 7 points, starts with absolute bodhicitta and then relative bodhicitta, at least the ordering of the text. So here, you see an example of a different tradition, the Lojong tradition, but taking the same principle. First, get some degree of attainment in the path of liberation. First, develop determination to be free, develop stability of mind that arises from having realized the nature of things, and be stable. When you are stable that way, then these cultivating of the path of methods, of the 5 of the 6 perfections, become powerful ways of increasing the qualities in one's mind stream. And based on that, your great loving kindness towards all becomes more and more effortless. Thus, it is also for the sake of tameable beings. And therefore, when you do the path, do the practices of the path of methods, then it is to benefit beings. And now you chant, 1 million Om Mani Padme Hum for the benefit of beings. Protector Maitreya said, for supreme beings who shoulder the great burdens of sentient beings, it is unseemly to walk leisurely. Don't even walk leisurely. Maitreya says, thus it is reasonable that I and others who are thoroughly bound by the various bonds of afflictions should exert 100 times more effort. Now, even bodhisattvas, this meaning of this quote is, even bodhisattvas who have good attainment consider, walking leisurely to be a waste of time. So how much more we need to be diligent. Okay, careful, right? Don't bend yourself out of shape by taking this quote too literally. Oh, I cannot go for a walk after a meal. I need to be diligent. It's not saying that, okay? Nagarjuna said, if those yogis meditate on emptiness like that, their minds will delight in the benefit of others. There's no doubt that this will happen. So their minds will delight in the benefit of others is referring to how the path of methods brings that into focus. So this is 618, his commentary. In Renjangma, it says that this statement should be read with two statements from chapter 8, which is, now I'm looking at page 37, those of you who have the physical book. It says, it is profound. So he says, read 618 together with 844. Chapter 8, statement 44. It is profound to not hold the wind energies, but to let them be loosely. And statement 45, the supreme transference of consciousness is the indivisibility of the consciousness, guru, and clear light. So these are two Vajra statements found in the miscellaneous chapter where statement 44 is related to, as for the path of methods, where you are manipulating the wind energies, you should know this. Do not hold the wind energies, but let them flow loosely. So Kyobpa has, so even though generally holding the wind energies is said to be one of the key things you are training in the path of methods. But even there, Kyobpa has his own special instructions. He says, don't hold the wind energies, but let them be loosely. Let them just be in a loosely relaxed way. Then, transference of consciousness, powa, actually is a type of path of methods. So here, in the 845, he says, some people say, as for the powa practice, visualizing your consciousness as a home, and then, visualizing all the doors, for example, all the openings, being sealed by different mantras, syllables, like using maybe the Hri syllable or using the Hong syllable. You imagine sealing, blocking all the openings except for the top opening. Then you visualize a Hong syllable, then you eject the Hong syllable. There Kyobpa Rinpoche actually says, he says, actually the best kind of powa is simply the powa that recognizes. Simply the powa that recognizes that your consciousness and the guru and the clear light nature of phenomena is inseparable. So here, Kyobpa again, even in the path of methods, have kind of his own special emphasis on how you approach the path of methods. So looking at one moment. So then another quote that Chodra gives in his commentary, he says, until you have obtained concentrated meditative absorption, even if you realize true reality, it will be without qualities. So you may have glimpsed some understanding of emptiness, like genuine understanding. But if you don't further stabilize your mind, which is a type of path of methods, then the qualities won't arise. Then it goes on to say, therefore, fierce heat is to be practiced. Fierce heat is Tummo. And this is a quote from Pamodrupa. Then Chodra ends this section by saying, even though you might have actualized the realization of Mahamudra free from mental proliferation for your own benefit. So basically that brings you to a place of stability. So he says, even though you might have actualized the realization of Mahamudra free from mental proliferation for your own benefit, for the arising of the measureless qualities and activities that are for the sake of others, it is necessary that you exert yourself in the 6 dharmas, such as fierce heat, and also in the cultivating of the 10 perfections and so forth. Meaning all the other supporting practices. You should fold them in. And do not think, oh, now I have realized emptiness. Then I just stay there. So this is 618. Yes.
So I think you said this earlier, but in recognizing emptiness, there is some understanding of the qualities, but the qualities that enable us to help others really cannot be realized to a great extent.
No, realization of emptiness does not entail qualities necessarily.
Not necessarily. So you can, that's the individual liberation with your thinking about yourself.
Yes.
And so this path of methods is what begins the process where these qualities arise and get bigger and bigger and bigger.
Yes. Yeah. And these qualities are for the purpose of benefiting others.
Yeah. Got it.
So you can see, like how superficially, I'm not saying, that I know, oh, this teacher has achieved this level or that practitioner has achieved this level or that level. But in a kind of superficial, but maybe meaningful to some degree, you can see how, practitioners who, not only practitioners, teachers, whatever, that means like more serious, practitioners who not only just train in the mind, right? But they also cultivate the other practices, the making of offerings, the accumulation of mantra, all the path of methods things, right? Whether the specific 6 yogas or more generally, you tend to, like again superficially, you can see, they tend to have a lot more disciples around them. Somehow those, attract the ones that are mostly exclusively kind of working on, the mind, and at least like again superficially, it doesn't seem like they're doing a lot of the others, they tend to have less, So you can kind of see that, Now, of course, maybe it could just be, the ones who are doing things, well, they are around people and people see them and people like them. And you can also say, well, it's just mundane reasons, But then it could also be, it's not, and it could very well be mundane, like superficially, right? Oh, this practitioner is so great. They're doing this, doing that, doing this, doing that, doing this, doing that. Oh, so successful this way, that way, right? But I'm also saying that, now let's say that's not the case. Let's say it's not some sort of mundane, superficial things going on. Then you can also see the logic that is being expressed by 618.
Because they are beginning to benefit others, the two in combination,
yes,
allows more,
yes,
well-rounded, if you will.
Yes, yes. So we practice the two on this side of not yet having realized nature of mind to whatever degree. We practice the two on this side. Then this moment of realizing nature of mind occurs. Yeah? And then after that, when these two are practiced together, they become way more powerful, way more effective. It becomes like effortless, seemingly, right? When it says effortless, don't take it so literally. Oh, effortless, spontaneous. So sit around and see, if spontaneously lunch is going to turn up or not, Probably not. Spontaneously, lunch turns up doesn't mean you just sit and wait and wait and wait, It means like, even if other people think it looks like you're cooking up a storm, it's spontaneous for you. It's effortless for you. Because you have gotten good at it. So effortless or spontaneous means that, okay? Effortlessly, spontaneously, dissolving all confusion. That doesn't literally mean effortlessly, spontaneously. It means like, those who don't understand, those who don't have that skill, watching from the outside looks like, oh. But actually, even the one who has the skill does feel spontaneous. It's like, oh no, it's, it's easy. And there are two types, right? Of course. Like one kind of host that hosts you for a big party at their house, right? They are pretending, they're really working like crazy. Then when you come, they're like, and they're like, oh, it's all very easy, very easy. But in the background, right? Complete chaos, then it's just pretending. But there's another kind of host, really, it's like they got it down. And then they are doing it because they love it, and they have no more stress, Then you come and they're like, oh, it's easy. That's the true spontaneity. But spontaneity doesn't mean, no work is involved. Okay. May, please.
Just a quick comment, not really a question. Some of us are reading the Great Drikung teachings to the assembly, and we have read the first teaching, which is that what is transmitted is through the lineage is bodhicitta.
Yes.
And it seems to me that bodhicitta is seen as the framework through which we see whatever is transmitted, whatever teachings, and
whatever is practiced, whatever is realized.
Right. And so I'm just seeing that there is this wonderful coherent among all the statements and how everything is kind of part of the puzzle.
Yes.
That is too big to see, but the parts that I do see seem to make sense, seem to fit together. Yes. And yes. I think it's bringing home to me the idea of the single intention, the focus, yes. Because we see things only piecemeal, or at least At least I do. And so I just want to bring that up as something
Good.
that occurred to me.
And this is also partly because I feel, you know, like Kyobpa Rinpoche's approach is, you could say, like, in some ways, it doesn't work for everyone. Because his approach is not the, you know, I'm going to use some terms that show my prejudice. My prejudice as in my bias. My bias is, of course, I'm biased towards his approach. So basically his approach is not the factory assembly line approach. Yeah? Like you know, in a factory, right? How our modern factories that can produce so many products is because a very systematic assembly line has been built. So you are the one who, you know, repeatedly do this, you know, whole day for 9 hours. Yeah. Push this one thing in. And then, you know, further down in the next room is someone who does only this. Right? So Kyobpa Rinpoche's approach is not this kind of assembly line. Yeah? And then in the assembly line system, when it works well, you don't just do this, you know, in this analogy. You learn from there, then here, then here, then here, then here, then here, then here. Yeah? Then you see the whole system. Then then someone like you can qualify to be the manager of the plant because you have seen the whole system. So there are Buddhist traditions, especially I think in the Tibetan and the more systematic, like Gelugpa, you know, Sakyapa, they have, you know, very sophisticated, very systematic, you know, this kind of assembly line. And that's their approach, right? And in many ways, you know, that's like, oh, really good, really attractive. Because if you're that kind of personality, you have that kind, you know, it's easy. It's easier for you to feel like, you know, I'm not like lost, you know. Kyobpa's approach is different. It's, here, go. Just walk around the factory, you know. And you're like, what are they doing there? What are they doing there, you know? It can feel like that. So that it takes a while, you know. But then when it comes together, and this is my bias, I think it's much more stable. It's not based on a bunch of like theoretical organization. The theoretical organization only gives certain kind of intellectual security. But at the end of the day, I feel that intellectual security cannot protect us from suffering. Because suffering arises not due to lack of intellectual understanding. Suffering arises due to the heart, not understanding the heart. Yes.
Another quick comment about that is that is not how we experience anything on this side of where we are. I mean, we don't know, our experiences don't come with a map already. We experience, our experiences come piecemeal too, and it's up to us to kind of see the pattern and to make sense of it in some way.
Yes. So in that sense, Kyobpa's approach is experiential. And experiential is a little, especially at the beginning, like, what? Right? But then if we're addicted to always given the assurance, this is this, this is this, this is this, then this approach won't work so well, actually. So this is experiential, as we like to say at Warren Wilson, experiential education. And both May and I know, oh my God, the college is chaotic all the time because it's experiential. Not much system in place. Then you have system freaks turning up, trying to organize the college, right? Then creating more chaos because that's not what the place is about. Yes, Judy.
I think we like certainty.
Yes.
And that method gives us a certain sense that we the assembly line.
Yes, the assembly line.
Control things, or you think you can.
Yes.
In that situation, and when it's all just sort of fluid and amorphous, if you will,
right.
You have to get a lot of it before it even begins to make any kind of sense.
Right.
And you get little pieces along the way, but you still don't have the whole thing.
Yes.
And I guess the assembly line doesn't have it either. They have a linear perception.
Yes.
But not a more global perception.
Right. And the assembly line can give, as you say, can feed that part of us that wants certainty, stability. So it works really well as long as you sit on this seat.
But if the screw drops on the floor, you're screwed.
You're screwed. If the screw drops on the floor, it's like, ah! Yes. Yeah. So the assembly line works really well. If you stay within the part of the factory that you have, mastery of. Yeah. But again, my bias, right? Life doesn't happen in this way, Life doesn't happen in a lamrim way. I'm sorry to say this, but, am I saying lamrim has no value? No. I mean, Gampopa is one of the first people to, create a lamrim text, JUL Ornament of Liberation. You need to know how to use lamrim, stages of the path. And not make the mistake of thinking the way the stages of the path is laid out is the way that, your process is going to unfold. It's not like that. Maybe a skillful means, some teachers will say, wow, it's certainty like this, it's certainly like this, it's certainly like that. I don't know. Maybe I don't have the good karma of having things just happening just like that, just like that, just like that, Okay, so happy Friday. Now let's do dedication. Sublime, precious, venerable, and glorious root and lineage gurus, assembly of Idam deities, Buddhas, and Bodhisattvas dwelling in the 10 directions, and all assemblies of Viras, Viranis, Yoginis, and Dakinis, please heed me. May the virtues collected in the 3 times by me and the entirety of samsara and nirvana and the inherent root of virtue not result in the 8 worldly dharmas, the 4 causes of samsara, and the resultant states of hearers and solitary realizers. And may all mother sentient beings, limitless as the sky, particularly those enemies who hate us, obstruct us, who harm, those who create obstacles, maras who mislead, and their mara retinues, have happiness, be separated from suffering, and quickly attain the unsurpassed, perfect, and precious Bodhi. By the power of this vast root of virtue, may we benefit sentient beings with body, speech, and mind. May the afflictive thoughts of attachment, aversion, ignorance, pride, and jealousy not arise in my mind stream. May thoughts of name, fame, gain, respect, and so forth in this life not arise for even a moment. With my mind stream moistened by love, compassion, and bodhicitta, may I come under the care of virtuous spiritual friends, and having become as limitless as space, may I achieve the supreme attainment of Mahamudra in this very life. By the virtues collected in the 3 times by me and the entirety of samsara and nirvana, and by the innate root of virtue, may I and all sentient beings quickly attain the unsurpassed, perfect, complete, precious Bodhi. Okay.
Thank you.
Tata, all of you, take care.